Hello, lords and ladies of the internet. I am the King of Candor, and today we'll be talking about how you can world build with Hobbits and Halflings. Now, before we get started, Hobbits are still copyrighted by the Tolkien estate, so using them as is will not work, which is why many authors either rename them or use the word Halfling instead. If you want a deeper breakdown of Halflings and Hobbits, please check out my previous video where I go over the history of this fantasy race. For simplicity's sake, I will be referring to them as Halflings from now on. So how can you world build with Halflings in a unique way while still keeping the spirit of them intact? First, we should establish what that spirit of Halflings is. I looked through dozens of other fantasy settings, and I found the thing that makes Halflings stand out as a unique thing is their families. Of all the fantasy races, Halflings seem to be the most family focused. Many stories have them using family connections, and they always live in small, tight-knit communities such as the Shire. Now, let's focus on the Lord of the Rings series for a moment. Since Tolkien created Halflings with the Hobbits, they should serve as bastions of this, right? Well, they do. The Hobbits are a very tight-knit community, with everyone seeming to be cousins or close family friends. Even the main 5 Hobbits are all mostly related. A full family breakdown is linked below, but Frodo is first cousins with Bilbo and Merry, and second cousins with Pippin. Merry and Pippin are first cousins, and this means that Bilbo, Frodo, Merry, and Pippin are all cousins of some sort. Poor Sam is left out, however. Although his daughter Goldilocks did marry Pippin's child, Faramir the Thane. This Faramir is named after the one you're thinking of, but they aren't the same. There are no human-hobbit hybrids in Tolkien's work. So, at the end of the tale, Sam does join the extended families. When designing my own version of Halflings for my game Enos, the Veneti, I kept this family connection in mind. The Veneti functions similar to that of a mafia or the Cosa Nostra, where their families are the most important things, and other minor families are often absorbed into larger ones. The familial loyalty that they share also means that Veneti who travel and adventure often send their loot back to their family head to ensure the rest of the family is taken care of. There are a lot more interesting details, such as how they resist electricity due to a Veneti stealing the ability from the god of lightning, but that's a story for another time. Other settings use Halflings in familiar units too, such as the cannibal clans in Darksun and the raiding tribes in Eberron. Heck, even the Kender have tight families from Dragonlance. So, how would you design your Halflings? Unlike Orcs, which I would say have no clear wrong way to design them, Halflings actually do have a single wrong way, the aforementioned Kender. So, I hinted that the Kender were very terrible in my History of Hobbits and Halflings video, and I mentioned them a second ago here. If you weren't around the time, or have only read the Dragonlance novels, the Kender might seem fine, or even fun to play as, but I promise you, if you played in a tabletop game with a Kender, you either loved them or hated them. This is because all Kenders have 2 traits which make them highly annoying. They're all thieves, and really good ones at that, mixed with them not understanding personal property or off-limits items. So a Kender might, and will, steal your family blade and sell it for a handful of pennies to buy ice cream. This can be fine or even charming in the story, but a player doing it to another one during a game leads to fights and bad blood. Ask any old school player or dungeon master about the Kenders at their table, and they will regale you with all their plights and issues dealing with this race. So, with the Kender out of the way as the only wrong answer, how do you make a good version of the Halfling? I'd say you start with a family focus, so close-knit tribes work. Places like Ireland or the southern United States make fantastic places to base your Halflings, since family and clan are so important there. Perhaps your Halflings also live more like collectivists, where resources are shared between family members or clans for the benefit of the whole. So we're going to make a brand new Halfling culture that still is Halfling, but is brand new. Halflings exist in the far north polar regions, eking out a life in igloos and by fishing and caribou hunting. This life is hard, and they rely on their family units for all things. Due to the massive open area and lack of many normal resources, the clans are spread out far and wide, with little contact between them. However, once a year, all the tribes meet at the Great Valley, and they exchange gifts and intermarry between the clans. This great moot is a time of peace, and even warring tribes are forced to be at peace with each other and may make exchanges freely while here. The shamans also conduct many ceremonies and blessings to protect the halflings from outside threats, and if there is such a threat, this is where all the tribes unify to fight it off. Halflings have few permanent structures. Being sedentary on the ice sheets, it just isn't possible to build them. However, here in the Great Valley, there's a massive fortress, large enough to hold the halflings' people, and is used to house them during emergencies or when foreigners attempt to invade them. The halfling religion is also one that encourages collectivization. All tribesmen are family, and sharing items between family is common. However, giving and receiving items from outsiders is looked down upon. This is because the sharing of resources has a spiritual aspect, where the halflings view all the items as part of their tribes as well. So giving them away is akin to losing a small tribal member, so each transaction is carefully considered. Now, how did we get here? We took the Inuit and Dorset cultures from North America, added in the Anglo-Saxon Moot and their hill forts and the defensive fighting style, then added our own little collectivization religion to explain why they freely share amongst themselves, but wouldn't steal from outsiders. These mix together and make a very unique halfling culture surrounded by ice and tundras. I suggest taking some aspects of multiple cultures or changing the one here for your individual needs. Do not be afraid of changing the halflings too much. If you feel they are too different from what the original halfling is, take the concept and create your own race, which will be 100% unique to your setting. Thank you for watching this far. If you enjoyed the content, I'd appreciate it if you liked and subscribe. That is all for today, and as always, I'd appreciate your candor in the comments below.